Hello and a warm welcome to this session brought to you by the Foodservice Consultants International Organization. My name is Mario Sequeira. I was a past chair of the Asia Pacific Division and now the chair-elect for the Worldwide Board from January 2022 onwards. Our organization, FCSI, is the truly only global organization that is independent of food service consultants that do design and management services. We have three divisions. The one is in the Americas, the other is EME that covers Europe, Africa, and the Middle East, and you've got the Asia Pacific division. Today, all of you have joined in. We're going to take the opportunity to share one of the initiatives that FCSI has embarked on, and that is to do with the BIM standards. And it is now with greatest pleasure that I introduce Andrew Brain from FCA in Melbourne, the current chair of Asia Pacific, who was one of the three nominated to take this BIM standards initiative forward. We also had Joe Schumacher in America and Robert Assisi in Europe, from the Europe division. Between the three of them, the Worldwide Board had authorized them to go ahead and develop these standards. They have been working in it for the last 2 years, and we would like to share that with you today. Take it away, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Mario. It's also my pleasure to be here to be able to present what has been a lot of work in the background by the Worldwide Board. It's the contributions of not only myself, but as Mario said, Roberto from EME, Joe from the Americas division. Not only are we FCSI members, but we're also BIM users. So what is BIM? BIM is Building Information Modeling. We all use this documentation software to produce the designs and documents in which we are employed to do. The task force that was set up by the Worldwide Board is headed up by those three members, myself, Joe, and Roberto. The local organisation division is led by myself, and we had these three separate companies also providing advice, because this was never going to be just a single point of reference. So this presentation, I just need to remind people, is not how to use Revit. However, we'd like you to register with the FCSI holding training sessions next year. We can provide a link for that through the FCSI website. So as Mario stated, the Global BIM Task Force addressed a growing need for the following. FCSI consultants around the world were all struggling with content, and an initiative led by Bill Caruso, the current president, gave us a mandate. He said, define and confirm the purpose of the BIM standards, establish a core of 3 members, one from each division. So there's Roberto, Joe, and myself. Each division is to provide and support each member, communication protocols, and agree on an outcome for the BIM standards and accessibility and ultimately ownership. So to define the purpose of the BIM standards, we needed to start asking some questions. Who was using BIM as a tool for design and consultants? What was it being used for? And what is the software doing when we're using it? So we quickly realized that there's many BIM standards out there and many BIM pieces of software. It's the FCSI survey in 2018 analysed that potentially there was 80% of consultants around the world were using Revit. So we aren't necessarily supporting one product, but understanding that if we're going to address a worldwide concern, that we focus on what is the majority of what is being used. So rather than addressing multiple platforms, we focused our efforts on the task force on using Revit as the mainstream reference. Prior to this assignment, industry professionals and organisations from various European and US associations had worked on the TAD FCSI standards, and these parameters were uploaded and used from 2015. It was agreed that now these were out of date and needed to be overhauled. The link is still live on the FCSI website, and you can go and view it if you like. And this is where we're actually taking information and sharing that with the worldwide membership. The document, as far as the BIM standard that we're working on, is divided into two parts. The first part is for the consultant. The second part is the creator content guide. So today we're talking about the consultant's guide, from the position of the consultant and what do they need. This is aimed at guiding the content creators as to what the consultants need when producing their designs. If we start with categories and the information contained within those categories, up until now, food service equipment has sat in the category of QF, specialty equipment or casework. Well, good news, we're getting our own category of food service. You should hear about this in the next release of Revit, so potentially 2022. When it comes to versions, Revit doesn't allow for back saving. So as users, we need to be mindful when creating our documents and working on our projects. We propose that regardless of the version that is used, the content that is created is no older than 3 years from the current date of release. This allows for consultants to use and upgrade the files into their more recent versions of the same software. File size, while hard to manage, we understand, we'd prefer to see that most of the content is limited to 1 meg, while we understand that this will vary from manufacturer to manufacturer, product to product, and when there is a configurator being used. Configurators are a popular way to show multiple options within the same piece of equipment, but this will be discussed in part 2 of the document. The units contained within the families is also quite important, as the document needs, the actual families need to be produced with units of measure as opposed to using text. So feet and pounds converts to millimeters and kilos and vice versa. The naming conventions, while file names of families use the following format of manufacturer name, model number, and description, we're also looking at the language option component, because ultimately Asia Pacific has numerous languages that are used to convey details and information within families. The same with throughout the Middle East, Asia, the Americas, and Europe. So language is going to become a very important component of the naming convention. Details and geometry. The task force concentrated considerable effort here, and there's a lot of information contained, whereas we're going to limit the information here to identifying the elements and the dimension geometry in the manufacturer's documentation, as well as the critical parts of that make up the family. There's no need to add in unnecessary data or geometry. We want to try and refrain from using excessive reference planes, reference lines, and only use a main reference plane that defines the geometry of the identity of the family. In parametric families, be sure to use snap geometry to reference the planes rather than any other geometry. And the dimensional parameters are to be clicked to reference planes. In doing so, this will allow for optimum flexibility and will help and prevent over-constraining of families. So manufacturers' logos, while we understand that logos are very important to the manufacturer and the providers of the families, they don't serve any functional purpose for the geometry of the family. So a simple yes, no visibility parameter to turn them on and off as the consultant requires allows the information to stay within the project. The materials application, the FCSI has a materials list and along with shared parameters list. And this is also going to be concentrated in a lot more detail in part 2 of the document, where it allows the manufacturers and content creators to come together and analyze globally what the manufacturers would like to see within their families and make sure that those elements within them are all consistent. So regardless of the region in which the consultant is working or the content creator is creating, we're trying to keep things consistent. So clearances, these are now shown as symbolic lines to represent the subcategories and should be able to be turned on and off as required. Hosting, when families are a wall-based or a face-based, be sure to check the cut voids when the box of geography needs to be cut, because this becomes an important element within the family. But understand that when the new family category comes out, these characteristics may be being modified. So we need to just be aware that what we're saying here actually also needs to be referenced with an update. So the MEP connections, always assign the connector description to the parameters with a value, and there is no exception to this. So we need to make sure that those things are also maintained and consistent. I'll hand you back to Mario, who has some additional words of wisdom. We want to also let you know that there is a survey coming out, and along with the BIM standard, where we're actually very interested to understand, once people start to read what it is that we've been doing. It's not meant to be a catch-all, but we're interested in understanding what people's opinions are based on how they're using BIM, and in this case, Revit. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. That was very good. Well done. And yeah, so that was a lot of the technical stuff there, all those who are viewing. But I just want to end this presentation from FCSI with some share. You know, the FCSI consultant brings two things to your project. We bring knowledge and we bring experience. There are a lot of people out there who have knowledge and there are a lot of experience. FCSI consultant bring those two things to your project. And we deal with design and we do management consulting. What I want to share with you today is that we're not big on trends, because trends are for lazy people to just follow something. But these are not trends. This is what is actually happening in reality outside, in the real world. And I just don't have a long list. I just have top 3 things that I want to share with you for you to consider in your next venture, whichever part of the Asia Pacific that you're in, or for that matter, globally. The very first thing is the labor workforce. Okay, people talk about technology and people talk about using the latest technology. My humble opinion is the number one thing in your business has got to be your staff, right? And it's not about getting staff that have got degrees and graduates, or they've done the latest, they've got the highest qualifications. What is really important is that they've got to have the knowledge, experience, and above all, they've got to have the passion. They've got a passion for food. The hospitality and food service business is for people who love being of service to others. So they've got to have that passion to serve others, and that is what is going to make you and your business successful. The other thing is COVID has also taught us that we need to be adaptable and versatile to change. So it's versatile and adapt to change. So that's the other thing that you need your staff to be empowered with. And on the other hand, there are people who are in the healthcare and hospital and aged care industry. And for them, the most important thing is the last mile. Again, people talk about cook fresh, cook chill, cook freeze, all these different processes to get there. But what is really important with the competitive industry that we face ourselves and with healthcare and aged care and lifestyle living, which is a growing segment of the market, it's the last mile. The focus has got to be on that last mile of serving the meal either to a patient in the hospital and trying to make them feel better and leave the hospital as soon as possible, or the resident who's just wakes up each day and the highlight of their day is their meal. And so that last mile of serving the meal to that resident in the aged care facility is the most important thing that you need to think about. The second thing is that it's also taught us that, you know, we might have a great chef, or we might have a great beverage list, or we might have craft beer and cocktails and other things in our venue. What is really important now is that we need to also think about some sort of entertainment, some sort of diverse complementary amenity that we can incorporate in our food and beverage businesses moving forward. Just examples are things like mini golf, electronic darts, these other games, bowling, just different things that I know this is a bit difficult in smaller venues, but whatever element that you can consider to complement your food and beverage, to encourage businesses, encourage families rather, friends, business associates to come, team building, family get-togethers, have some other amenity besides the food and beverage to get them to your venue. And the last but not the least is to embrace sustainability in your design and in your offer. It's coming. It's already happening in America. There are a couple of states where gas is now banned in any kitchen, in a commercial kitchen, and that's coming to Asia Pacific very soon. So think about that when you're planning for the future. If it's possible, there's some great options with induction cooking that so you can have a gas-free kitchen. Helps with because there will be tariffs be imposed on gas moving forward. So it may be cheaper now, but moving forward it will be more expensive and a lot less sustainable. The other thing is also consider lessening the amount of chemicals you use in your operation, and there are great products out there like e-water and other things that can help to reduce your chemical usage and also assist with your sanitization. And last but not the least is the growing people looking for healthy options and for buying stuff that's locally produced. That's something that's also really important that we need to consider in our design and our offer for the future. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And it has been our pleasure, Andrew and myself, to bring this webinar to you. And we now stand by to take any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much.